Well, what can I say? Rishi was right. The Packers fell to the Vikings. Final score 25-27. We're going to break that loss down with a very special guest. Then we look to wrap our regular season with our last home game against the Bears. Let's go.
Two dads and a Chaz putting trophies on the wall. Two dads and a Chaz is talking Green Bay Packers football. Not exactly qualified, but answers the call. Two dads and a Chaz talking Green Bay Packers football. We gonna break it all down, probably leave out some facts. We gonna make some statements that we'll likely regret. Mostly gossip and rumors made straight off the top. So crank up the air condition, cause it's bound to get hot. Two dads and a Chaz, you know we live it and we live it right. Two dads and a Chaz, we gonna break down football for you tonight. Besides them rings and putting trophies on the wall. Trophies, y'all. Two dads and a Chaz is talking Green Bay Packers football. Yeah, we talking Green Bay Packers football.
Welcome back to Two Dads and a Chaz Football Podcast, the football podcast you didn't even know you wanted. I'm your host, Tyson Fauché. Joined by the entire pod squad tonight because it is a very special episode with a very special guest. We are joined by the host of one of the best Packers podcasts out there, other than ours, of course. Spencer of the Poor Man's Packer podcast is going to be joining us later in the episode. Something that's very exciting to me. I find their podcast to be the most authentic Packers fan podcast out there. Very down to earth and willing to meet up with us. This is our first networking. These are the folks that we think are great. And if you have not yet, add them to your weekly routine. And so welcome out again to Two Dads and a Chaz Football Podcast. I am your host, Tyson Fauché. Starting with the first fellow father of the group. Very glad to have him back. It's awesome to have the whole group together. Please give a big round of applause for Mr. Aaron Mayhew.
Gentlemen, good to see you all again. I'm just excited to be back in the room where it happens, okay? So let's dig into the details and let's talk some Pack, y'all.
Let's taste some magic. I'm all about it. I also want to add my Chazzy, Bubby, baby boy. He is back, but not in the room with me today. Chaz, say hello to the people.
Hi there, folks. I hope you're all drinking water out there.
He loves the water, folks. And then also, full pod squad wouldn't be a full pod squad without my man Ty Wendell. What's going on, Ty?
Oh, Dads, Chaz, Packer fans worldwide. Despite this excruciating loss to the Vikings, we are still in the playoff hunt. We can still get it together. We're going to talk about it on this episode.
Where did you watch the game? Mayhew, where did you watch it this time?
We changed it up a little bit, and the wife and kids and I went over to a very good friend of mine where we've been incredibly lucky together. Same gentleman that I watched the Kansas City game last year actually went to it at Lambeau Field.
That was thoughtful.
It was. We were feeling pretty good about it. Had a taco bar, mac and cheese, a whole spread. Everything was in line there. Things kind of fell out the way they did, but it was still good just be surrounded by new friends in a new environment, and I regret nothing.
Ty, I know where Chaz watched the game because he watched it with me. So where do you watch the game, my man?
I watched it from the comfort of my couch, like a man should watch football. Despite having a pretty good record on the couch this year, it wasn't the magic spot. I don't know. I just didn't dial it in. I bear a lot of responsibility for this loss. I feel like I'm responsible for the slow start. Yeah, no, I really didn't get keyed in until, I don't know. You saw what happened when Dobbs broke out with those catches. I was ready for the game at that point, but flex to the afternoon. I was in a weird spot, and the team was too, man.
You were being productive, weren't you? You got caught up in project mode, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was there.
Guys,
I know.
It's one thing to earn it before a game. Go do some good old-fashioned yard work. That's good for the spirit.
Right, I wanted to be clean conscious, not have stuff hanging over me.
You got to keep your projects realistic. You got to have a cool down time. You got to think about the food. You got to think about if you're not properly preamped, you can't have a clean feed. That's a fact. Chaz and I, we watched it together at my house. Chaz, you want to share anything about our experience? Chaz threw down. We got some good food here this time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I was up at doing the boys trip 2025, and we were up in the UP, and I got us some bone-in dry-aged ribeye steaks, which were fucking fantastic. I dredged those bitches in Amish butter loaf. Herby scallion potatoes. They were quite delicious. Also doused in Amish butter loaf, and then a little bit of broccolini, which was doused in Amish butter loaf.
We dipped that whole thing in Amish butter loaf. No, it was great. We were eating like kings. I think that maybe it was not a smart move to do like the biggest boned thing you could. It was a tomahawk. So, I mean, this looks like a Viking weapon.
Don't change your tune now.
I thought it was the right move at the time that we were stealing their bone food, but really now I wonder if it was the right move. It was delicious. I regret nothing in terms of consumption. But I don't know. Those are big bones. Ty, don't you remember I did one year where we were trying to eat the other team's food and I cleaned up a bunch of chicken bones and made them all like big and like handles for Viking games, and we got our ass kicked that game, and I'm like, man, that was a lot of work. Get those bones look so clean, and then I just got killed. Anyway, this is all getting cut. Anyway, moving on. Curious, at what point did you get worried in this game? I'm gonna start with Mayhew because I know it's always a roller coaster ride for you.
I think it was the end of the half, right, where the field goal gets missed, and then they come back and they're like, "Wait, no, bullshit penalty." In my opinion, kick it. Momentum. Gentlemen, going into this game, all I wanted was it to not play out in the same manner that the first time. Same with Detroit. It's just like, let's not get in too big of a hole. I know we're on the road. Let's keep it controlled. And maybe you guys can answer this question. I'm not sure if LaFleur actually wanted the ball first.
He wanted the ball first. He's been on this new, like, we're going to start fast, give us the ball, we're going for it. I mean, it worked last week. It just doesn't, if you don't score on that opening drive, it looks silly.
Okay, real quick. I'm just going to say my piece, and then I'll move on. I don't like that. I don't even care if you opening drive, you get 7, fantastic. You know what I mean? The ball back at half when everything is actually developed is way more where I want to be. So if you're talking about a point where it changed, it was the end of the first half, Tyson. It still felt within grasp. Like it didn't feel like it was slipping away, but we were kind of digging a hole, boys, you know?
Sure. Ty, how about you? What point did you start to say this is you said you got in late, but what point did you
I got into the groove late. I mean, I was there for the game. I was there for the whole thing. So it was 10-3. I was like, we're fine. You know, it's just a touchdown. We're not having the greatest game, but we score a touchdown and this thing's evened up. Even after all that fiasco to end the half, we're still feeling pretty good. The start of the third quarter is when I was like, oh no, we're going to punt and then they're going to score. Might be a thrashing. I didn't expect them to have as much fight that they had in them, but that was the point where I was just like, oh no, we're not going to win this one.
Chazzy, at what point did you start getting worried?
Opening drive when we dropped the ball and fumbled it. Then when we had our first opportunity to score and we decided to go for a stupid field goal instead of going for 7 points and going for 2 at 8-10 going into the half.
For me, I got worried. See, I was actually silently really happy that they took the points in that scenario. In fact, I want us to take the points every time. I'm tired of us pretending that we are one of these go for it on fourth down, gotta have it teams. We're measured. We are a calculated, smart. If you didn't fall into our beautiful trap on first, second, or third down, illogical to assume you're going to get it on fourth down. At this point, that's where our brain's at, as we're like a very rational team. So I don't like going for it on fourth down because 6 points in that 6 to 7 feels very different in that game. So I felt pretty good about that first field goal. It was when we went for it on fourth down and didn't get it. That's when I was like, oh, fuck. We really can't afford to give away possessions. That turnover on the opening drive, certainly in previous years, Packers teams, that would have been the end of the game. Like Rodgers would have been like, fuck it. We'll try next week, guys. You guys failed me. He fumbled. I quit. All right. That's it. You know, so I feel like we're in a better spot. Mayhew.
I'm going to come at from a different angle, I think. Sorry, I had to let the dog out real quick. But I think I disagree here, right? And it was not just last week against the Saints, but also this week. Look, guys, we're playing with house money here. What kind of seed can we actually like get to, like playoffs wise? I want them going for it on fourth down in the proper situations. And the one that upset me the most was that drive in the first quarter where we're on the goal line. Okay, if you fuck it up, totally fine. They're starting on like the 3. And the defense is like starting off like hot, like let's go. But look, Matt, you are going to deal with this in the playoffs, and the good teams are aggressive. And I'm not talking Dan Campbell going on 4th and 12
30.
from your own 30. Yeah, Jazz, you get it. You get it.
4th and 30.
why not just kind of put it out there and like, man, let's take some shots. Let's take some shots.
Yeah, I
And
agree, 100%.
it goes both ways. I want to kick longer field goals. I want to put my field goal kicker in that situation. Let's prepare for the playoffs. We know where we're at here. And that was one frustrating thing with Matt. Like, he's conservative in these weird moments that for me, I'd rather see him be aggressive.
Well, I think we've been trying to find our identity as a team, and it's been kind of the story of the year, thinking we finally figured it out in the last couple of weeks, only to regress in this game. I don't think that we're those cool kids that are just going to go for it on fourth down because we got big balls. I think that we have a lot more strategy that goes into our thinking, our game plan, and how we expect the sequencing to work. It doesn't work sometimes, and we don't adjust very well. Listen, I want to get into this game. If we can go into an overview of the game, I kind of wanted to do a little bit of the good, the bad, and the bullshit, because there was definitely on that both offense and defense.
Yeah. We talking Green Bay Packers football.
It's all right. Let's get it started here on the offensive side. I'm going to start off with some of the good.
That would be Jacob Jacoby was definitely probably
That's
number
Josh
one
Jacobs
player
for you
in the
people
game.
don't know the inside joke. That's just Jacob.
Jacob Jacoby Juniorton. I mean, this guy has really kind of been the backbone of our whole season, and I kind of think that they figured out if they shut down our run, we're kind of a little bit screwed. But we're staying positive. For this specific game, 17 carries for 69 yards with an average of 4.1. I believe he did have the one touchdown. Thank the Lord.
But he was tough, running tough, right?
Oh, yeah. Still pushing through, taking 3 hits, going for an extra 2-3 yards. Still an amazing player to keep an eye on this season. I mean, again, like I said, we have kind of built our scheme around it too.
He was one of the things that was consistently working for us. I saw him as in the first drive. It was the Josh Jacobs show, just one after another. And these are plays that are well blocked, not well blocked. He looked very, very good. Was kind of our whole offense in the first half when the passing game was just non-existent. So that was, I give it up big time to Josh Jacobs. But there were some bad sides of Josh Jacobs too. The fumble, that was not great. I'll take that. The bad was,
and that's his third lost fumble of the season.
It's not that much as a running back. It's just there are huge moments.
Yeah, I mean, part of his ability to shift and be impossible for defenders to square up on is that ability to like move so quickly, and some of that comes with that one-handed carry. He's a lot of one-handed through the hole. Gonna cough the ball up. I mean, the thing that makes him, really puts him in that Derrick Henry, Saquon category of like, you just can't square up and hit this guy. You're gonna need help, and you're gonna need lots of it because he's got to have that stiff arm. He's shoving 300-pound guys to the ground. You got to have the free hand, and they know it. So it's gang tackle Jacobs, and for the most part, he has survived a lot of pile-ons and kept that ball. Time to time, he's gonna try to do too much, and that's fine. I can live with that.
I was really enjoying that Tom Brady compared him to Emmitt Smith in this game, and that got me really excited because I can see that in his style of running, the way he's so shifty back and forth and gets underneath guys so well. Hate for him to get the reputation as a fumbler and then start getting punched in the arm every single game, because that's kind of how that goes.
My take, dude, this guy's not a fumbler. That was it's football. It was a pretty impressive play by I think it was a defensive lineman like chased him down. Can we talk about his second touchdown that got called back? I've never seen a more heart-filled run in my life. I'm like, you're going to call this back?
On what? On that Sean Ryan block. It was a block.
It was a block.
Anything wrong? That's a whale of a man flopping down onto a smaller man and crushing him. That's his fucking job. I don't understand. I still look at that play and I don't know what I'm looking at because I'm like, what did he do wrong? And there's like, oh yeah, you can't touch him in the shoulder like that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yes, you can.
Yeah, it was an insane call.
Am I taking crazy pills? Because this looked like you just took NFL film's greatest run, like you took Walter Payton's greatest run, where he stiff-armed the whole team. And they're like, phantom block. Sorry, take it back. Like, you should just let that happen because what a fucking run, dude.
I'm ready to get all sideline refs out of this game. I'm ready for all calls to come from the booth. And just call it some magical dark force, some wizard behind a curtain digitally throws a flag down, because these refs on the sidelines have been just costing us games this year.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to make the transition to RoboCops for sure. RoboCop these refs. Let's get them out of here. But okay, who's the bad?
Javon Bullard, fellas. I got to touch on this real quick.
Yeah,
real quick. Look, rookie, I get it. He's been injured for multiple games. I was actually shocked that he got lit, ready to go for this game. But dude, this guy, let me look it up here. He gave up 6 completions on 6 targets for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did make 11 tackles without a miss, which is like, he kind of knows. He just looked out of place constantly.
That's not a good stat, though.
No, and fellas, it was clear offensively, like the Vikings, they're like, that's our bitch. Like, we're gonna pick on him all day amongst like a bunch of others. And it, like, Ty, saw it too, right?
They did it to Valentine too. Like it was like first half, second half, and the first half strategy was pick on Bullard, and they had these guys on their heels.
We're out of bodies at safety. As soon as Zane the Train got his brain completely shook out of his fucking head, I'm like, oh no, that guy does nothing but get really hurt. Like playing football, like all you hear about is injuries. We finally saw him. He did one good thing, immediately got hurt. Worst concussion of the year. He did not know where he was. So poor Zane sprain.
Incredibly thin, and they figured out don't throw it anywhere near McKinney. Yeah, you know what I mean? McKinney hasn't had any action, and it's because it's just the other side of the field.
We drafted Bullard to be a safety. But he's ended up being like a really solid nickel corner for us, and honestly much better in that position. At this point, we need him to play safety again. They absolutely ate him up. We bring safety pressure, it seems. Like if we're bringing an extra guy, a safety's in the box, a safety's up front, a safety's on a tight end, a running back. I don't know if this is the best strategy if we're going to consistently be short-handed in the secondary, unless you're just like, I just think Stokes is going to shut them down every single game. I just think that they just forget to attack him. And that's the reason he had a decent game, is because no one threw his way this time. This is a whole other conversation, but really Bullard has not had a good month.
Would you rather have seen Keyshawn play that strong safety next to McKinney?
Yes, but he's our best corner at this point.
Exactly. Who's going to cover the wide receiver then?
Yeah, he's the only one he's throwing down. There's some good. I'll give some good to Keyshawn. I think Keyshawn had a wonderful game. He was playing fast. He was playing hard. He was getting away with playing dirty. I like him as a player. I think he's having a pretty solid year. Best year of his career with us. So I love to see him return a kick once in a while, but that's not really a thing we do anymore. Mayhew?
We paid this guy in the offseason like $6 million a year. Like, it was like, oh, what are we doing here? I think they had every intention of putting him on the outside to pair with Jaire, and I think he's comfortable there. He's done well there. The problem is, because of injuries, dude, he's not a good slot guy. It's just like not the spot for him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And with the new kickoff rules, he doesn't get a chance to return kicks often, but when he does, dude, the guy's earning his paycheck, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely. He's a cheap corner at the way we're playing him. We're playing him at every position. I mean, and he's, at this point, doing pretty well. Bad, I have to go with Wilson, though. Not great. Middle linebacker Wilson. I was a big fan of this player at points in the year. I'm very disappointed. He can't cover in the pass. He's just not any good at it. And he gets really confused if you just spread him out just far enough that he doesn't know whether to go forward or backward. He just stands there and plays patty cake. And it's really unfortunate, because if you could get him running forward, but we already have a guy who's doing that really well. I just don't know, other than just playing catch, what his role is on the team right now.
He missed a tackle, gave up 4 catches for 60 yards. Look, he's had flashes this year. There's no doubt about it. It's not just him. Our entire linebacking core and coverage, it's not a good situation, fellas. And that is what every team has basically been aiming for in eating us alive.
Well, there's one good, bright, shining spot on this whole defense at the linebacker position, and that is Cooper. He is one badass. Cowboy Cooper. I don't know if y'all heard about this. You know about Cowboy Cooper? So they call him Cowboy Cooper because he moves here to Wisconsin. He's got to learn new playbook. He's got to make the team. First and foremost, he needs to buy a property right outside of town so he can have his horses. So he has a bunch of horses. And he takes care of those horses before he goes to practice. And after he gets home, this guy is farm tough, guys. This is why he's wrangling dudes, because he's farm tough. You know how I feel about farm tough. It fits like a glove on this team. There's a reason why he looks like the best linebacker we've ever had. He's still not a middle. He's still not a guy who's going to take over an entire defense. But, man, what a weapon.
I just want to give you both sides here because, man, everybody, like the eye test, Chaz, Ty, D-Bone, everybody, like the guy looks like a goddamn superstar, and he's a rookie, and we've kind of like eased him in. I just want to say this game, I was like, dude, this guy is blowing it up. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Well, he got picked on in coverage. 7 catches for 91 yards, same as the rest of our linebacking crew. But he delivered a career-high 6 stops and earned an elite run defense grade of 91.5. This linebacker core is going to continue to get picked on in coverage until we find a way to figure it out.
And some of the bad around him is that bullshit offsides call that he got against the kicker. Ty, do you want to go into that?
It's just an insane. I don't know how the refs blow this so bad. I mean, it affected the game so much.
Yeah, mascara down their faces.
He's got to bear the brunt of it. But the fact is, the refs have made it clear. They always have a point of emphasis. They said this year is going to be the line of scrimmage. Why are you cheating the line of scrimmage so close that you're even like the ref can make that mistake? Is that quarter of an inch really going to? I just feel like this is the youngest team in the league. And this whole Vikings game and everything about it was a young team making self-imposed mistakes, whether it was the penalties and critical downs or the receivers dropping first down catches. It was a young team, and we don't look like this that often. And so we forget that we're a young team. And Edgerrin Cooper, I think, epitomizes that young talent.
So that is offsides? I don't get it.
That's what they're calling. We had one with was offsides, and they're calling that neutral zone infraction as well. That's what that is. Right? Yeah, offsides, missed field goal. But it's getting to the point where this is so ridiculous that there's a better picture where there's a physical line drawn right down the middle. And I don't know if you could tell, but nobody's there.
Yeah, that doesn't – it felt like a phantom call. I'm seeing these a lot more in games that are like, this doesn't even make any sense. Where's this coming from? When I was at the Detroit game, they ripped one away from Amon-Ra St. Brown that didn't make any sense. It was absolutely a catch. There was no reason to stop it. It came from New York, and they overturned the call. And I'm like, what the fuck was that for? I didn't want to win like that, and it was complete bullshit. I just don't understand how these blatantly wrong calls are getting thrown in. I hope it has nothing to do with our sponsors of the show, DraftKings or anyone like that. I don't have anything to do with it. I hope not. We don't take that fucking blood money. Don't worry.
Keep in mind, there was a total review of the performances from the refs from that Detroit game, and they were all suspended until further investigation.
Whatever. Great. Give me my win back then.
Right.
I don't until you figure it out. We'll just call it a draw. What do you think about that? There was some good from Valentine. He got a really important pick, guys. They had a total of 11 possessions, and we had 10 possessions, and this game came down to 2 points. Like, really, at the end of the day, that's pretty impressive for our team, considering we played maybe a quarter of good football. Like, that's pretty impressive that we have that much fight in us to come back. And a lot of that was sparked by Valentine in that pick. I thought that was actually a very impressive ball.
Pro read from a second-year player. He is developing. He must be learning something. He definitely needs more support. When they did key in on him, they were able to pick on him. But for the most part, yeah, it looks like he's developing nicely.
We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, Spencer, the host of Poor Man's Packer Podcast, will be joining us. Some Packers memories and get into some superstition, something that we love to chat about here on Two Dads and a Chaz. See you in a minute.
Yeah. We're talking Green Bay Packers football.
Thank you so much for coming on, dude. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
I wanted to welcome out to the show Spencer from Poor Man's Packer Podcast. We're very lucky to have him joining us on Two Dads and a Chaz here. It's an honor and a privilege. Ladies and gentlemen, give him a big round of applause. Hello. This is Spencer, huh?
This is him.
Wow, I've never seen your face. This is wild. It's like meeting a DJ.
No one's ever seen my face.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this going to ruin your whole mystique?
No.
I'd go full blurry for you then there, bud.
We can
That'd
get
be more ominous.
a warble
Right.
voice. A little history lesson on how long you guys have been a pod, Poor Man's Packer podcast.
Yeah, God, this is season 6 of doing the podcast, which it's just, God, I feel old saying that now. Pre-COVID and now it's post-COVID and now it's like Rogers and now it's Love. It feels crazy how it's been that long. But yeah, we've jumped around a bit. We started always recording in person. The first 3-4 years were all in person. Since then, we've had to move to Zoom. But yeah, I mean, if I wasn't talking about the Packers every week, I'd probably be talking to myself about them either way. So
Nice.
Yeah, I was just talking to my wife about the Packers, and she was like, "Don't you have a podcast for this? Like, why am I the outlet for this Packers conversation? You have one."
This podcast has really allowed me to cut down on assaulting random people with Packer shirts on with Packers talk, because I know I have an outlet. I don't need to be like, "Hey, are you a real fan? What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" So it's kind of nice. Who was the main instigator of the Poor Man's Packer podcast? Are you the original?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep, I'm the main dude. It was actually my roommate at the time who jumped on for season 4, and he was not very good. He was not very knowledgeable. He watches all the games, but he doesn't know anything about football. But it was kind of one of those. It was kind of one of those things where he's like, "Well, God, you talk about the Packers so much, you might as well just do it." And it's like, well, shoot, I guess if there's ever a time, might as well. Then late 20s or whatever, I guess. And it's always fun to try something new. So that was the start of it.
How many people have been on the pod over the years? Like, how many members?
I don't know. We've had quite a few.
Okay.
I was gonna say, because we've had like random guys who've popped on, like Blake, one dude helped me out on the draft, and then it was Kyle to start, who should get back, and then Hank and Todd and Billy, and then we interviewed a couple guys back in the day too. We actually had Tom Grassi on way back, like season 1. We talked to him and had a draft. Wow. And then we've talked to a couple former players like Brett Good and Jarrett Boykin. So that's been kind of the run through we've had.
Oh, that's great. And then you guys have the Janus opener. So clearly you got connections.
Oh yeah. Very deeply seated connections with all facets of the Green Bay Packers.
Well, I will say I reached out to you, and you're the first pod that we've ever done this with, but I just find you guys really authentic. I want to just kind of tell you some of the things I really appreciate about your pod. I think I appreciate your willingness to start shit with people on Twitter. I find that to be entertaining and something worth watching, because I don't really care for Twitter, but if I can just follow your beefs, that's enjoyable for me.
I'll take it.
I think it takes a lot of courage to put together a segment like SVP and keep that going for a while. That shit vomit piss, for those who are unfamiliar, it's a great segment on the show, and I hope you guys continue it forever. How did you have you lived in Minnesota your whole life? How are you a Packers fan to this degree?
No, I grew up in Superior, Wisconsin, which you can't get further north than Superior. So I grew up right across from Duluth. Like Lake Superior was walking distance for me growing up. And one of the big reasons it's actually came up a lot this week, but my buddy who lived across the street, who's actually my bookie now, he was a big Viking fan, still just talks so much crap. And it was the year where the Packers beat the Vikings, one of the last games of the season, if it wasn't the last game of the season. And then we played them in the playoffs the week after, and then it was the Randy Moss Moon game. So he talked a bunch of crap after that, and I just got way more into the Packers then. But yeah, I mean, especially since like 2004, 2005 is when I've really been a big fan. We would go down to training camp from like 2006 to 2010, I think we went. And I just hang out at practice, get autographs and crap. Like I got Rogers on the tailgate tour too. He came to Superior once. So when I was 15, 16, I went and even bought a Stitch jersey of him when he was still the backup. And I brought it to get him to sign, and he signed it. He's like, "Oh, what's your name?" I'm like, "Spencer." So he's like, "To Spencer, Aaron Rodgers, follow your dream." So I've got that hung up.
Good job.
Hey, yeah.
You followed your dream, like you said?
Oh, yeah, I'm a podcaster, just absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
We're talking Green Bay Packers football.
Always been a huge fan, training camp, all that. And then when we won that Super Bowl that year too, I was lucky enough to get tickets to the Return to Lambeau thing the parade deal that they had, but it's just at the bowl. And I was lucky enough to be front row for it. So after the ceremony, I was able to high five everyone on the team and touch the Lombardi trophy 3 days after they won it. So that was pretty cool.
Oh,
It was like negative 10 degrees. It was very cold, and people are like touching it and they kept their mittens on. I'm like, you guys, you gotta take your mitten off. You gotta actually touch it. You can't pretend like you're touching it.
Stick your tongue to it.
Yeah. That's coming with you instead.
Spence, did you get to go to the Super Bowl in 2010?
No. I was, even that year, I didn't go to any games, which I get a little superstitious at times where I'm like, maybe I just shouldn't go to any games in a given year. I haven't this year. I don't know if I'll go on Sunday even. I usually, the last 2 years, I've like bought tickets the day of and gone to the game, but we'll see.
I can respect that. I went to every winning home game that season, which is the reason I went to the Super Bowl that year.
Nice.
Well, this kind of goes right into our next thing we were talking about anyway, which is some superstitions. You and I emailed a little bit about Toyotathon because I was the last one to that party. Thank you for cluing me in and making a whole segment in your show to clear that up. But it seems like it's ruined now. Do you feel like the awareness of Toyotathon on this level makes it less powerful? Do you believe in superstitions? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean the Toyotathon thing, because that's what I talked on our show, where the fact once the adults know about it, it's not cool anymore, and that's what kind of happened when Toyota jumped on with it. And the part with it too, it wasn't even like a little video thing. Like it was, I think, a pretty clearly photoshopped, like Toyotathon picture with Jordan Love in the sweater, which I don't think he actually had the sweater. That would have been one thing too, but. I mean, look at that. Once we get the partnership, the next game against the Vikings doesn't show up too hot. So we'll see if they can turn it around. But it's his worst. He didn't throw a pick, didn't throw one that counted at least, right? He almost had one. So we've got that going. I don't know. You gotta think a little bit more about Toyotathon now.
Yeah, you do. Do you have any other superstitions that you have as part of your routine? I mean, we've got a lot to share, but I just didn't know other fans did this as well.
Yeah, it comes and goes. That same year that we won the Super Bowl, my buddy who's a Viking fan, he actually went to the Packers-Lions game earlier that year, and they were in a suite, and everyone in the suite got like a free $100 gift card. So he got like a quarter zip, and then he got me this wool hat, the team wool hat for that year. So after I got that hat, we went on, the run to the Super Bowl, and then the next year, 2011, we won whatever it was, 13 games straight again. So that was my lucky hat forever. It's still my lucky hat. It's the one I'm wearing on the podcast logo. But then, I mean, other than that, I've done the whole, like, I got to wear the same pair of underwear I was wearing the previous week if we're on a like if it gets to the end of the season and if we lose again, we're done. It's like, well, shit, I got to pull everything out to make sure I'm not the reason that we lost. So I've been getting older. I've kind of forgotten about it. I usually stick with the game day attire, whatever jersey or shirt or sweatshirt I was wearing, I'll wear that the next week. But that's kind of the level I'm at now.
Well, I got some strong suggestions for you, Spencer. First of all, it's very important that you have fresh socks each year. People think they can bust out some holy old sock. No, dude, you got to get freshies for the year. And it's not a bad idea if you've been practicing all year to have a playoff pair that's freshies for the playoffs. It's got to be this year's design. You can't get some nifty pair of socks from the Goodwill. That's not going to get it done. Okay, those things were discarded because they failed somebody. You need to get a fresh pair. Yeah, we got a thing on our team we call on our pod that we take pretty seriously. We call it cheese up on D. So when you are on defense, it's third down. You can't overuse this magic because if you do, it doesn't work. And also you need to have everyone in your viewing vicinity be on board at the same time. It also doesn't work if you're streaming the game. It's got to be a direct antenna feed. Okay.
Ooh.
But like third down, you got to have it. Everybody grabs a piece of cheese, and once the ball is snapped, you actively are chewing cheese during the play. Nothing but great things happen, Spencer. I'm telling you, I have changed the outcomes of seasons. And you can say it was Rodgers, you can say it was the defense. I think it was the cheese. I'll be honest. It did big things. You can't misuse the cheese, and here's where it goes wrong, is you put a plate of cheese out, and then someone invites their girlfriend over, and she's like, oh, boy, cheese. And she's just eating cheese all willy-nilly during offense, and you're sputtering, and you're 3 and out, and you're like, who's it? That is not just for eating. That is it's hard to explain that. And if they don't get it, it doesn't work at all.
We can't let that happen.
And then this brings me to the next
Exactly, yeah.
thing, which is roster. Who do you invite to your game? That matters a lot. You got to keep track. Who's lucky? Who's not? It doesn't matter if you're old friends. If all they bring to you is losses, then you can't have that person over again. That doesn't work. If you can't stand this guy, but all we do is win, get that annoying son of a bitch over here. Let's do it. Let's make the food I don't like and win some games.
Conversely, if you're the guy who struck up a conversation with Tyson at the grocery store before the game and he invites you over and you win, you can be sure Tyson's calling you the next weekend to come back over his best new friend.
Now I have a lot less hard data than I used to. I used to keep, spreadsheets on this stuff and make sure I knew I was putting us in the best position to win when I had a bar in my garage. But things have changed a little bit. We've chilled out. Family, yada yada. Superstitions are a big part of what we do, and Cheese Up on D is kind of part of our brand here. So feel free to join the Cheese Up on D.
Yeah, I'll have to remember that one. It's so different. Like it might be something that'll shock the system if we really need it.
It is.
It clogs the arteries of the offensive players. See, that's why we do it.
Yeah, they can't operate defense. It's not about you, goddammit. It's about the team. I'm tired of everybody being so selfish. I'm lactose intolerant. I eat cheese every week. It fucking ruins my digestion system. It's not about me. I can't tell you how many times I've had to explain this to people. Fair.
Yeah, the team also gets really mad. I do a diet every year, starting basically January 1, where I can't eat anything. And so they always blame me at the end of the year if we lose because I wasn't cheesing up on D.
That makes you an easy target.
14 years in a row, Chaz. Let's see if we can get over the hump this year.
Oh, that was the other thing I was going to bring up was the Rumplemints. I forgot about my Rumplemints story for the superstitions because you talked about the booze thing too, or no, the cheese. Yeah, the cheese.
Cheese up on D.
So I was watching the Cowboys divisional round, 2014, 2013, whatever it was, the Dez didn't catch it game, and it wasn't looking good. And me and my buddy were at the bar, and we'd been there all day. And I was like, oh, well, we got to get some shots to change the mojo. So we got Rumplemints. And then, a couple plays later, Dez didn't catch it. And I was like, oh, my God, it worked.
I was at that game.
Then, oh, geez, God, you've been to a lot of games. Holy shit.
Try and do one a year.
And then the next week, I tried to do it in the Seattle game, and it did not work. So I was like, shit, so I can only do this once a year. And then the very next year, it was next year because it was 2015. I'm telling my friends, I'm like, oh, I got the Rumplemint shit. Like, if anything happens, we can do this. So it's the Cardinals game, and we get the ball back down 7. And I'm like, we need a round of Rumplemints, and we're at this brewery. We're at the Herkimer down in uptown Minneapolis, and we got them, and then it worked. And that was the craziest one because it was the 4th down, and then it was the Hail Mary. And then I don't remember even ordering the next round, but then I screwed that up too. Well, then we had the second round though, so I screwed it up. And then we ended up losing the game. So you can only do it once per year.
Ooh, well, it's good to know. I'll add that to the list.
That's a good point. You can't just hit it time after time after time. It's got to be strategic.
We're going to take a short break. And when we get back, we're going to break down that Vikings loss a little more with Spencer. We're also going to take the time to talk some shit about Zadarius Smith, Ty Dune, deep examination into the Jaire Alexander situation. Has he played his last down as a Green Bay Packer? Disappointing first rounders and much more. Stay tuned to Two Dads and a Chaz.
Yeah. We're talking Green Bay Packers football.
Let's talk about the Vikings game. Spence, what was your initial thoughts of that game?
God, it wasn't that great, huh?
No.
You go like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the kind of negative, polluted mindset of the fan base today too. But I don't know. You don't like there's losses, and then there's the losses where you just question everything, and then it's like, wait a minute. Like I still think, and I've said this so many times on our stupid show, but it's like our brains don't go out far enough as much. It's like every week, it's like this was the most important game of the season. This week, no. And it's just, I'm like, is Matt LaFleur good enough of a coach? Like, does his system work long term against good teams? Yada yada. But then even going and watching like the highlights back, it's like, well, shit. If Jacobs doesn't fumble that first drive, we're scoring points one way or another. If Jaden Reed doesn't drop the fourth down play, we're still rolling there. And then it was even the third down play. I forgot what it was. We were just short. We weren't very good in the first half, only scoring the 3 points. But all our drives, we still moved the ball halfway decent. I think it was the same deal when we lost to the Lions earlier this year. I could be way wrong on that. I mean, Jordan Love obviously had 40-something yards at the end of the first half, which wasn't good either. But I don't know. I kind of wish the Commanders didn't win last night, because then our game wouldn't have been as important, and then we'd be sitting there as the 6th seed. But then, I don't know, you go back and forth, back with the whole superstition stuff. It's like, well, when we were the 6th seed, we were able to make it. 7th seed last year, we weren't able to. So it's all these inner battles going on, too. And it's, would you want to go up against the Eagles? Would you want to go up against the Rams or whoever? I'm still a little all over the place. It's tough, too, because you expect, more season to be there to kind of right the ship. But it's like, am I going to be feeling good enough after whatever happens in that Bears game? I assume we're going to shellac them.
Yeah.
But is that going to be high enough of a level myself? And then is the team going to feel good enough about themselves? Because it felt like they were a little, I don't know, demoralized after that game as well.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And the question is, what does that loss really mean? And like you said, we're talking about a 6 seed. We're talking about a 7 seed. That's not, in my eyes, that big of a difference. Here's the way I look at it. How many in a row does this year's Packers have in it in terms of wins? I put the number at 4 or 5. I can't imagine us winning more than 5 in a row. I said this a few weeks ago when I went to the Lions game and I watched us play a very similar game to what we just watched. The indoor stadium really shook us. We were flustered from a coaching down to the quarterback, to the line, to everybody. Seemed like they were having a hard time communicating and getting past that. I wanted at that point to not have to play the Lions again. So I was like, I'd like us to lose 2 of the next games of the next 4, because then that puts us low enough seated that 2 of these guys can beat each other up. We can take on someone in grass, which sounds nice at this point, and then kind of work our way up and see who's left. That was my initial hope. When we lost this game, I'm like, great, because now we can win against the Bears and win 4 more. That's 5 in a row. Super Bowl time, baby. You have to lose at some point before you rebuild. This team plays really well after a loss. They come back pretty quickly and learn a lot after a loss. They very rarely keep it going unless there's a lot of injuries. So I think that there's enough guys that are going to be motivated by this to really get us in the right spot. I will be really concerned if we lose to the Bears.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if that happens.
Yeah, me too.
Because, I mean, even just they've been falling apart. Because I thought the Bears would be better than what they have been this year. I didn't think they'd be a great team, but even last year when everyone was giving them shit, they were if we flipped games with them, they would have been in the playoffs, and they always had a decent defense, but then they get rid of Eberflus, and now the Bears defense is terrible too. I don't know. That's the thing, because it's like, oh, if it's even a close game this week, and we beat them in Soldier Field just by Carl Brooks's finger. If we're that close again, it's like we're really not going to be emotionally feeling like we've got a good shot come the playoffs.
I wonder if there is some kind of deep layered chess here where LaFleur realized at some point in the year that these 2 teams are going to be really good and we're going to play them 3 times. So we're going to play a real vanilla, scared version of ourselves. We're going to go in there, look real incompetent for a half, guys, make them believe we don't got it. And then I'll let them play the good plays. See if we can win one, but we're going to make them believe that we don't have any good plays. And then we'll bust out all the short yardage stuff in the playoffs, which is what's missing, Spencer.
That's what I've done in my dumb brain, where it's like every week the nice thing about Matt LaFleur is he finds the weakness and then he attacks different teams in different ways. But now it's like we get to the end of the season and it's like you almost can't be doing these things. You've got to have your own things that you do every single week, just like the Jordan Nelson naked bootleg, whatever, deep pass, blah, 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 getting Aaron Jones outside. It's like we don't have those staple plays in the passing game right now, which is something we need on those playoff runs to consistently move the ball. And for it to, it's obviously a good thing to have a running game and a consistent one with Josh Jacobs. At the same time, it's like, when's the last time it felt like Jordan Love was really in a rhythm during a game? It's just sometimes when we're playing catch up, but even that doesn't feel real. Like watching the Cowboys game last year, it was holy shit, how's this guy doing this? And we haven't really had that yet. And in my dumb brain, I'm like, so is this offense just not trained or built to like have their thing, and every week they're just doing something a little bit different so they can't be consistent, and then when they go up against a team that just stays in their lane and does what they do well, and we're trying something different that week to match up against that team, that's why we come out flat, and then all of a sudden we have to play catch up, do more of our thing, and that's when we get back in the game. I don't know anything, but maybe that's something.
Well, I'd certainly like to think I know everything. I think that's an easier way to go at this, and think that there's actually a much deeper, bigger. I gave McCarthy way more credit than he deserved for genius scenarios that worked out. So I think I can give this to Matt.
I definitely think it's a very young team, self-inflicted wounds. I think that a lot of those mistakes, it's just, look, we're beating bad teams. We're struggling against the good teams. And I think the difference is the experience. You refine things, you get better at things, you get to know your opponent better. When you've gone up against the same guy over the course of 6 seasons, it's a lot different. These guys are still having to learn all that on the fly. And I think that we've stumbled at times just really against divisional opponents who know us better than everybody else. And I think that's what's shown with the Vikings. Now, we're way better than the Bears, but that's what's shown with the Vikings and the Lions this year to me, is just they're more experienced teams.
I think both those teams outcoached us, unfortunately, to put it bluntly. I feel like Matt LaFleur is rattleable. You can rattle him, is the point.
That's a word.
Yeah, okay.
And Florio definitely did.
He's looking a
Not
little bit
Vikings
like
fan.
Rodgers in that last game with his disappointment in the details and having issues getting back in the groove. It felt like we were wasting time arguing semantics. At least that's what it looked like from my view. I'm curious if the biggest thing you can do to LaFleur to piss him off is neutralize his offensive game plan to start the game, because that feels like if you take him out of his first 2 drives, he really has a hissy fit for about a half, until he finally has to reset the game plan and come up with something else. Chess?
I would say that's not the number one thing that pisses him off. It's probably doing the wave on like a 3rd down or a 4th down. That's what really pisses Dad off.
Yeah, that's right. Don't have fun with all that money you spent. Shut up. There's football to watch. It's really disappointing when I was at the Lions and all I saw was like quiet, shh, when they're on offense and no one said anything. And I'm just like, no, boo. like, hear me. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is too quiet for a Giants building.
Yeah. We talking Green Bay Packers football.
Where's the story on that concrete? You still working at that factory or what?
I was destroyed a long time ago.
We talking Green Bay Packers football.
I have been confident in this team, though, all season. I haven't panicked or worried. Spencer, did you hit the panic button at any point this season, or?
No, even during the game, I never panicked. I was texting Todd on our show. I'm like, oh, even the last drive when we had the ball and we hadn't even scored that touchdown yet or whatever it was. I was texting him. I'm like, oh God, there's just one problem. There's too much time left. Like there was too much time that the Vikings were going to get the ball back once again. But no, it's really until it's completely gone. I think the Packers always have a chance. I think it's just Aaron Rodgers positive scarring me, where there's always, especially with the Hail Marys and shit too. It's like there's always, even Jordan Love, his first start at Lambeau against the Saints, where he had the game-winning drive at the end of the 4th quarter. More often than not, if you keep faith with the Packers, it's going to work out. And even if it doesn't, it's like, well, if it does, you get to tell yourself, you were optimistic the entire time and you were right. So I'll just roll with that.
I just hate to see a pattern against division opponents where we are losing in a similar way 3-4 times in a season, regardless of the margin of victory. It still is a little bit concerning, and I want to believe this is part of the bigger plan because it seems pretty obvious, but I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about injuries. Does anyone know if Jaire Alexander is a football player anymore? I mean, I love him. I want him to play, but I'm getting frustrated at this point. I don't know what's going on.
I wanted this guy since before the season started. I wanted this guy to be my dog this year. I wanted this guy. I was like, I want him to come out. I want to buy the jersey this year. I just had a really good feeling about it. And then as soon as he got hurt, it just seems like this is a never-ending story. I don't know if you heard about this, Spencer. Did you see that article or the quotes from Za'Darius the other day about how the Packers dogged him and like they want him to play hurt and they fined him $1 million? Tyson and I were talking about this. Like, is that kind of what's going on here? Maybe they want him because he's been practicing for the most part at the beginnings of each week and then not playing. So like, I don't know like who to believe.
So these situations are always incredibly tough to know exactly what's going on. Because I hate Za'Darius Smith. I absolutely fucking hate that guy. He was the best for a long period of time with us, those first 2 years. But then he got upset about his contract. It all started when he was tweeting about like homes in Green Bay or he needs a good real estate agent, blah, blah, blah. And then he followed up saying, I was just blah, blah. Like he's like, it wasn't anything. Well, then he has the back flare up during training camp. He plays in one game and then he doesn't really come back. And yeah, because it was that Ty Dune piece, which I despise Ty Dune. I don't want to say piece of shit, but I did, and he is one. He
and we won't stop you.
First, it was the Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy thing at the end where they didn't like each other, and I'm sure a lot of that is true, absolutely. But then it's when you don't see other beat reporters really talk about Ty Dune at all, or even like, I don't know. I just don't think he's a credentialed guy, I guess, but he was back in the day. But I don't know if you can really trust his reporting on stuff. Like for instance, the first Za'Darius Smith piece that he put out 2 years ago when he originally signed with the Vikings, it was this whole thing about revenge. Part of that, I was like, well, he originally signed with the Ravens, and then he backed out of that contract to sign with the Vikings. And then I even listened to an interview of someone talking to Ty Dune. It was some radio station down in Green Bay. And he was like, hey, did you ask Za'Darius about why he didn't stick with the Ravens? And Ty Dune said something like, we only have so much time when we get to write these pieces and stuff, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't able to talk to him. And I'm like, so you're not doing your due diligence to come up with the actual story of what happened. You're taking one side and running with it. And that's what you kind of see with a lot of the things that he writes. There was that piece last year with the Bills that upset their fan base as well, where they were talking about Sean McDermott and when the Bills were really looking bad. It was kind of a hit piece because he didn't release it until the Bills were borderline a playoff team. And then the team kind of rallied behind him and yada, yada. It was the whole like 9/11 joke. But it was interesting to hear that Za'Darius was fined. I wouldn't be shocked if Jaire Alexander, one way or another, is getting fined right now from the team. And maybe he was last year as well. Well, I mean, he was when he was suspended for the one game. Because what it appears to be is the team, the doctors, Doc McKenzie, who's one of the more conservative doctors in the NFL, what they can see is that he can play right now. There's nothing structurally wrong. He can play. Jaire does not want to play on that bad knee. He said last year that if he doesn't feel 100%, he doesn't want to be out there. And I think that's what's happening. And now the big thing out of today's presser was Matt said that there's been some swelling, which was the big issue with Bakhtiari and his knee issues. And hearing that and just Matt's demeanor, he's a terrible poker player. Yeah. It sure doesn't seem like I would be surprised now if we see Jaire back on the field this year, or probably at all with the Packers ever again.
Isn't that a guaranteed contract? How do you even get out of that? That seems like...
So that's the issue, because it's not even, and I'm not a salary cap guru, I just directionally kind of know what's going on. But bottom line is he's getting somewhere like, I think he's owed $27 million, $28 million next year. But if you cut him, you save $6 million. To me, even 2 weeks ago, I'm like, and it was kind of the same thing with Aaron Jones last year, where I'm like, well, I would rather pay Aaron Jones $6 million to be on the team than to save that, whatever it was. But with Jaire, it's at $6 million, and it's like, well, are you going to find a better corner in the open market for $6 million than Jaire Alexander? But now with all the headache and the injury stuff and how it's only gotten worse, it's like, man, maybe we do just cut him and move on.
There's just so many first round picks down the drain at the cornerback position. Like how many can you have in a decade and still show your face? It's rough.
That and even like second contracts from Goody. All these premier contracts that Goody has given out have seemingly all been mistakes. Bakhtiari, Gary, Jaire, Kenny right now isn't playing super well.
We didn't talk about Kenny in the game. That was not. I didn't see him. He was there, but I didn't see him do anything. But just him and Lucas Van Ness are just playing patty cake with the blocker in front of them. It doesn't even feel like they're able to get any kind of penetration at all. It's frustrating.
There hasn't been enough to really even get upset with. It's like it's weird how his best game was like he peaked his first game where he had the sack on Justin Fields and had another like tackle for loss, and since then it's been a whole lot of nothing. When Brenton Cox starts getting snaps, so when no one was talking about, now he's produced what, twice as much or more than LVN. It's tough to be. It's just that you have to temper expectation. It's like, there's still a chance he can turn it around, but it's like, how long are you going to wait?
He needs a move. Like he's got to do something. He just takes up a block and runs forward and then kind of looks around it. Like I don't see him. He doesn't do a spin or like a club or like anything.
Don't forget the other half the time, Tyson, when he over pursues. That's the
he's gonna hold his edge once in a while. But
he learned from Rashawn Gary his first freaking 3 or 4 years. Gary's finally starting to get that figured out a bit, and LVN's carrying that for him.
Well, they say players coach players. Our first round of the playoffs, I'm curious who they're actually going to play. We can't look past the Bears as a group, as much as I'd love to. They have very little to play for other than pride in
beating us.
Yeah, beating us is kind of the best thing they could do left with the year.
Are they on a losing streak still?
I think so. Yeah. Since changing out their head coach, they're 0 for 4.
Does it go beyond that too? Wasn't it like 8 games in a row? Is it 9 now?
I think it's 8 or 9 if I'm looking at this right.
And the Seahawks won last week against the Bears in Chicago by posting a whopping 6 against the Chicago Bears that could only put up 3 at home. It's going from bad to worse there.
When your team is starting games saying, Packers suck, against the team they're not even playing that day, but ending with trade the team. This franchise is in some serious trouble. They probably should just goddamn sell the damn thing, and maybe they might be good.
It's pretty bad. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. The game they played against us, they fooled me. They looked like a good offense in that game. Their quarterback looked like a dual threat, legitimate rollout quarterback. Had some 15-yard out throws that I was like, okay, these guys might be kind of good. So I don't think we can completely sleep on this game, but I don't think we want to back into the playoffs losing against the Bears. That'd be about the worst way that you could do it. So I'm hoping that we can go out there and kick some ass.
That'd be the highlight of their season.
Any chance of a last minute someone cutting a corner who's about to retire and we could scoop him up, for the playoffs? That'd be swell. Jalen Ramsey, maybe I want to get rid of him.
God, I feel like it's too late for another Rasul Douglas.
Yeah, we'd have seen him already, wouldn't we?
Give him Zane train.
They've been saying Calais Campbell might get cut if they don't make it. So like that'd be useful, but not if we don't have any corners. Yeah. I don't know how we create pressure if we can't stop passing. And clearly the zone passing defense does not get it done. Like that short zone was embarrassing. It reminded me of when Kirk Cousins tore us up to start the season last year, where we're just sitting there and they're just hitting the gaps. So I'm hoping that we can evolve past that and that there is some brilliance waiting on the other side.
Yeah, it's just tough because I don't think we've gone away since Jaire's been out. When Jaire's in, is like we can go to man, and when he's out, it's like, especially with Eric Stokes being out there, once Zane went down too, it's like you can't really put him in man. He gets eaten up, and I've seen some stats. Eric Stokes, everyone kind of hates him. I don't really like him much either, but he's been halfway decent. I saw something like the last 5 games, he's allowing a passer rating of 51, and there's only been so many completions and stuff. So I don't watching him, and especially when the ball is in the air, it's like he has no idea what's going on. But sneaky in zone coverage, he's been okay. Now that probably tells you that's not a good thing if the defense you're playing is having your worst player play better, and that's the one positive you're looking at for it. But especially when you don't have the pass rush, it's like eventually someone's going to get open.
He could be our Jared Bush. Who knows? That guy had a good little run in the playoffs. All of a sudden made some plays, helped us win a Super Bowl. He was the worst player up until that point, and then did some good things. So you never know.
Good point.
Stokes looks like he's just like a kid that won a contest to be on the Packers and can't believe he's still there. And it's like, they're going to cut me. I just know it. Darnold has like resting hostage face when he talks. He just looks like a guy that there's like a gun to his back and he's like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a certain look. I'm just waiting for that egg to crack because I just don't buy it still. I don't care. I know what I saw. I still saw 5 balls that we could have picked off that would have changed that game completely. He threw some pretty bad balls throughout the game. So
there's a tough thing with this Vikings team too, where it's like, I don't even know who to really hate right now. Like it's Justin Jefferson, but everyone else is fairly new. And it's like, you can't really root that hard against Sam Darnold. Like he's a journeyman quarterback who's never been good. And then he just pops up and he's playing well, but then it's like Aaron Jones and then, Van Ginkel and Grenard. It's just, they haven't even been on the team long enough for you to hate them. So I do, but it's just not that real authentic hate I had for like Brian Robeson and Jared Allen and shit back in the day.
That was pure.
I'll tell you who I'm really starting to hate is this Kevin O'Connell.
Oh,
head coach for the Vikings. This guy is starting to really ruffle my feathers.
He looks like the guy at the country club that's like real rude and doesn't tip. He just looks like an asshole to me. I'm sorry. He just has punchable asshole face.
He's I don't like him. I wish between him and Kwesi, I feel like McConnell's the guy, unfortunately. Like it pains me, but it's like he's just that much better. I don't think he's like a better coach than LaFleur, but in certain ways he is. It's like, LaFleur was like some minor league whatever quarterback. O'Connell actually played in the league, and it's like he's more of a dude just because he's played football longer than LaFleur. Like he can talk in front of guys better than LaFleur because he's been in the locker room. He's probably led more teams. And that's what I hate because, you see some of the shit after. It's like, he's just a little less awkward in front of the camera, a little bit more confident, which, again, that was kind of another thing that sucked about the Vikings game is Matt just can't contain himself sometimes. Sometimes it's throwing stupid-ass challenges or just, yelling at a ref probably longer than you need to. It's like, Matt, it's over. I don't know what good this is really doing at this point. I don't know. I still don't like O'Connell, but
he works the refs better than LaFleur, and that's the part that really hurts me.
He's like a real man. It's because like someone like a little mouse squeaking at you and like a man being like, "Excuse me, can I talk to the manager?" It's different.
Working the refs is a major part of being a coach's job. Is in game, being the guy. Your players are going to say things to the refs. As the coach, it's your responsibility to defend your team. You do that by picking the exact right moment. And LaFleur, whether it's the going for it on fourth, the challenges, or the barking at the ref at the exact wrong time, he just has a knack for bad timing. He's great at scheming up game plan. When it comes to like abandoning that plan and rolling the dice, we saw it in this last game with the choosing to kick the field goal early, going for it on fourth down later.
I think it's phony. I don't think that we're a go for it on fourth down team as much as I'd like us to be that. That's not how we're built. We're built to dominate you on first through third down. And if it doesn't happen, we start questioning everything. And I don't think that's how these other teams that are fourth down winning teams are built. They're designed with 4-yard plays left and right that you can't stop. And that's just not our offense. So I think it's hard for us to cosplay as that kind of team when we can't really back it up.
And I think that goes to the Packers' new identity with this run first. It goes to the LaFleur taking the ball to begin the game, and that he wants to establish a lead and make you catch him, and then he can just pound the ball on with the run. and he's got the plan, he's got the concept, and then he abandons it from time to time. And it's like, you just got to stick with it. If that's your thing and you're just going to beat him up, like with body blows, you got to keep hitting him in the gut.
We have an addiction to the 8-yard out. We love it. We cannot stop at the end around.
Even when Jaden Reed's not
8-yard
catching
out.
it.
Like we only need 3 yards. Let's hit him with an 8-yard out. I just hate our obsession with the deep ball as a coaching staff. It just feels like that's the ultimate prize, is to have a pretty deep ball, and that's not what it takes to win football games. I felt like Tom Brady was rubbing our face in that last game.
That one series was terrible. It was just deep ball, and that was it. That was the most frustrated I got in the game. That's when I really started feeling bad. I, of course, knew there would be a huge comeback and potentially we were going to win, but that was the spot where it wavered.
Yeah, we're talking Green Bay Packers football.
Do you have a favorite Packer memory, Spencer?
What, the 2012 Bears Packers Week 17? I believe it was 2012, if not 13. For some reason, I always go back and forth on those 2 years. But Rodgers broken collarbone, had the however many games he was out, 5 or 6 games. Comes back, Cobb was out too, and that whole drive is like the most cinematic, I don't know, all over the place drive, because there was like multiple 4th down conversions, 3rd down conversions, the toss to Cobb, and then I was home from college, so it was like the first game I got to watch with my dad that year. So then to watch it with him and for it to end like that was my favorite memory outside of touching the Super Bowl trophy.
Yeah.
But actually watching the game, that and 2007 Monday Night Football against the Broncos, the deep ball to Greg Jennings was another one of those moments.
Oh, Spencer, I was actually at that game. And, dude, the stadium erupted with the 10% of Packers fans that there were. And my buddy went to high-five me and actually slid backwards down like 5 or 6 rows. He knocked a couple of 5-year-old kids like out of the way. It was like one of those like moments.
That's awesome.
Love the call on ESPN too. They're like, one play, touchdown, game over.
One time I saw Amon Green in an airport and cornered him and ruined his day.
And had he had a podcast at the time,
God, I was
totally talked him into being on.
I was decked like this. I had like a Packers hat, a Packers duffel bag, a Packers sweatshirt, like Packers shorts on, and he was on the phone. And he saw me, and he's like, "Oh no, I'll call you back." Like he just knew this is gonna be a minute, and yeah, I got a minute. It was great.
At least he hung up whoever he was talking to talk to you.
He was
that's
super
something.
nice, and then everybody bothered him right after that. So I felt like a group of people then showed up and were like, "Can you sign this? Can you sign that?" And I'm like, sorry, it wasn't even a Packer game. I'm just a dork.
Yeah, we're talking Green Bay Packers football.
And if somebody tries to serve me another slice of ham and something called cheesy potatoes, I might just die.
I definitely gained like 30 pounds in the last month and a half. It's concerning. But what are you going to do? That's with the holidays. Every year you get older, you get a little fatter. It's pretty exciting. If your GI tract is doing well at this time of the year, then I don't believe you're doing the holidays right. I'll tell you that. It does grind my gears, though.
When you sent it out, you said Christmas, holidays, or whatever, and New Year's, and I was like, God, I don't really have too much to complain about. I kind of like that drunken stupor you get of just food, and you don't really want to move. But my thought was, they're just too close. Christmas and New Year's is just too close. We gotta push back a full year or a month for New Year's. Like, it should just be February. It's the shortest month out of the year anyways, so you can get into the new year, like just ease into it with the 28 days or whatever, and then you get on with the rest of the year. And that way you can look forward to another holiday instead of having 2 of them like within a week.
And they really need to do something about making Super Bowl Sunday have the Monday following be like a national holiday, because it's ridiculous that there's anybody, that's even like a regular day of work. Let's get real. Like, how many people hunt? Maybe they get a day off of work. Come on.
Maybe that's the move. We just make New Year's Eve Super Bowl Sunday every year. I guess that'll be difficult because it's a Sunday, but then we can double up and always have the day after the Super Bowl off. Foolproof.
Yeah, we talking Green Bay Packers football.
Guest, I would love for you to go first. Who do you feel is going to be the offensive standout going up against the Bears at home?
I just always go to Tucker Kraft. I just love Tucker Kraft so much. And this is back to like the whole stupid like secret offense stuff. Like, why don't we just find the things we're good at? It's like, I still don't get why every single time we're in the red zone, give Tucker Kraft the ball at least once. He always makes at least one guy miss. I mean, Josh Jacobs kind of does the same thing. We felt like Jaden Reed was that guy too to start the season, but it's like, if you want to get Jordan Love feeling better, you want to get the offense moving a little bit more, these nice little closer passes to Tucker Kraft. We had a screen pass to him again last week where he picked up a couple of yards too. It's like, just give him these easy completions, get him going, and then maybe after that, Jordan Love can branch out a little bit too. But that's the guy who I want to get sticking it to whoever we're playing early. I like Tucker.
I like that answer a lot. In general, I see a lot of teams running like a mesh that's successful against us, and kind of everybody in motion guy be the inside slot and kind of wreck everything in the middle of the field and then pop out right the other side and have an easy 4 to 6 yard. I mean, that's what Amon-Ra St. Brown's doing. That's what we just saw the Vikings do against us. We have the players to do that. We have Musgraves. We have Reed. We have quite a few players that could put us in that position, and that's something I am not seeing us do. So I'm going to go with the other tight end that no one expects to see, the return of the Musgraves. I think he's going to have a surprise, like 80-yard game that nobody saw coming. They forgot all about him. And he's just going to make everybody worry about, because we got to get a new wrinkle before the playoffs. So if we could get a big game out of Musgraves, then they have to worry about a 2 tight end world.
Mine is he struggled recently, but I think he bounces back in this game and gets primed for the playoffs, and that's Jaden Reed. Season's catching up to him, and he just needs a reset. And a good game against the Bears is just the thing. Post some receptions, get a touchdown. I'm looking for a big game out of Jaden Reed, as long as LaFleur is still playing those starters.
I just want to jump back, Spencer. That screen pass to Tucker Kraft, I think I spit my taco out mid-play because we struggle with screen passes. I was just so excited to like actually see it executed properly. Man, Christian Watson's a tough one for me. Okay, this guy, I want more out of him a lot of times, but then the games that he's not there, taking the top off the defense, it just, everything looks like a little bit harder than it should be, especially this last game, right? If the guy can rest up and come in this next game, great. But at the same time, I'm very cool. Matt, I know you listen to the show. We can be vanilla on offense. We can rest people. Like, it's about the playoffs for me at this point. But if I got to pick somebody, maybe blow it up a little bit, see what.
For me, I want to see Romeo Dubes. I want to see Romeo Dubes get 2 fucking touchdowns for this next game. Wanted more out of him for this last game. J-Lo just didn't have the time. He had, guys all over him all the time. We couldn't open it up, especially when it's on even a second down. We don't need to be going for 30-yard passes every time, man. Just dump it out. Just give me the first. Give me the 5 yard. I don't need 20. Love to see Romeo Doubs have some time to eat for this next game. Defensive player, Spencer.
I'm going to take Xavier McKinney. He had such a hot start to the year. What was it? Was it 5 straight games where he had a pick to start? And it's been a lot slower since. I think he's only had one kind of since that streak that he had. So Caleb Williams coming into Lambeau. I would like, maybe we can get these turnovers going, get them in bunches, keep that rolling in the playoffs. But Xavier McKinney, maybe he can get an interception. Maybe he'll get multiple interceptions. Maybe he'll tackle a little bit better this week. I think he got bullied a little bit last week. I'm trying to figure out whose fault the Naylor touchdown was, if it was Bullard or Xavier, because it was like right between both of them, and we don't know anything. But I'm going to pick X for this game.
It was probably on Bullard.
It was. It definitely was.
You just assume, you assume because it's like the veteran guy too, but I'm so used to like Darnell Savage pointing at someone where when no one points, I'm like, well, we're just never going to know.
I blame. Yeah. I need Razul to point out who's screwing up. I need someone to freak out. I would really like to see Carrington Valentine be the unsung crazy hero. I like you guys saying he has crackhead energy. I agree with that wholeheartedly. He definitely does. And I'd like to see, I don't know karate, but I know crazy. I feel like that's something. And if he could get a pick in this next game, get hot, start playing good man, take some players out of their game plan, thinking that they can pick on this guy. And it'd be nice if Stokes actually made a play. He's so close. He's this close.
God, he was so close last
So
week.
close. He almost made a play. So close.
It's been over, I think it's over 1,000 now, but it was 900 when it first came out. Bill Huber wrote about how it was over 900 snaps since he had ever defensed a ball. It might be his whole career. He hasn't.
Jesus.
Like literally.
First round pick, baby.
And then this past week, he like.
I thought you were just talking him up earlier, Spencer. Like he's this close.
I know, but it's like you gotta find the truth in the middle there. I think a ball got tipped by the receiver, and then he tipped the ball after. So I was like, oh, maybe this is it. No, they did not count it because it had already been tipped. So he's still looking for that first pass defense. He's due.
He is.
Very
He
due.
Certainly do. Yeah.
That slot machine is ready to pay out. Just needs a couple more quarters.
I think we're going to see this guy play 7 different positions on Sunday, but Keyshawn Nixon.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Yes.
He can play some nickel corner, some outside corners, some safety. We'll put him in there at 4 positions on special teams. This guy's going to do it all. But this is a breakout game for Keyshawn. He's going to intimidate Caleb Williams early, and mind games are Keyshawn's wheelhouse.
And possibly get an ejection.
And his car towed.
Right.
They told him he couldn't park.
He does what he wants.
On the team.
He doesn't care. He does not care.
Gentlemen, I'm looking for a glimmer of hope here. After what Spencer said about Ja, like I guess I didn't know that's like potential. Like maybe this guy is just wrapped up in bubble wrap and like we're not going to see him again. I would love to just get him out there, even a few plays, in hopes that it's not as bad as I think it might be. And we might actually have him for a playoff run. Because, man, if that's even possible, like our defense changes immediately. It's like you got him on one side, Nixon on the other. If Bullard's back, all these things. God, Evan Williams.
McKinney to worry about over the top.
Yeah, it's like we're more formidable. And like we actually stand a chance here, to like make a run. So, Ja, if you're listening, man, I hope you can make it back.
I'm all wrong, Jaire Alexander. Prove us wrong. Come back and realize what traitor assholes we are, and let us know.
Well,
I did this for those shitheads on Dads and the Chavs. I got 3 picks today to let them know that I'm trying out here.
I am a little paranoid because I definitely had a conspiracy theory that Aaron Jones was just finding ways to take the middle 6 games of the season off so that he was fresh at the end. And I'm starting to be like, did Aaron Jones tell Jaire? And Jaire is now like, that's a really good idea. Right. Get hurt for the 4 to 6 weeks of the most taxing, and then come out and be the most productive guy for the last 4 games.
Well, hey, I want to thank for sure Spencer coming on the show from Poor Man's Packer Podcast. If you are not listening to Poor Man's Packer Podcast, you are screwing up. Put it in your weekly rotation. It's one of my absolute favorites. They hit on a lot of different things. A lot more work goes into theirs than maybe this one. Feels like they're reading articles and quoting actual things.
And they present actual facts.
Yeah, we just kind of get on and tell you what we think we thought we saw. And that's been working so far, Spencer. But, you make me want to be a better man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Want to tell people where we can get, where they can download Poor Man's Packer Podcast.
Yeah, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, whatever. We're not on YouTube. I don't know if we're ever going to do that, maybe. And then you can just follow us on the old Twitter, too, at PMP Pod.
I was going to say, Spencer, huge fan of your podcast. Tyson turned me on to you a couple of years ago, but you blend a little bit too well with this crew. So we would love to have you back at some point, man. It's been a ton of fun hearing you. So thank you.
Especially if we bring Monkey Boy. He bites.
Yeah. Like I said, it turns out we have a knack for the puppet world.
My dad growing up when I was a kid in the 90s, he had a toy that all the stuffing came out of, and it was a monkey, but it had the Velcro arms and legs Velcroed around his big fat doughy body. And so he put his hand up there, he put a baby onesie on it and like a Packer cheese head, and it would go around biting other fans.
It was Monkey Boy.
I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah. So he's going to be making an appearance probably for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I like that it wasn't like an actual puppet. It just turned into a puppet.
No. My dad was like, I got an idea for this thing.
And then my son got the video bug because all kids want to be YouTube stars now. So he wanted to make something with me over break, and we did a Godzilla and Elmo interview And I was modern day Elmo with smoker voice. That was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Feedback's been really good on the puppet stuff. So, Spencer, thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having me. I'll
you so much
hop
for-
on again sometime this off season.
That'd be awesome.
We would
thank
love
you
it.
so
We
much.
would love
We'll really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Go Petco. Thanks so much, dude.
See you guys.
Bye. I want to thank you guys all for watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing. We have been trending up lately. This is our first attempt to network with another podcast. Feel free to leave a comment. Send us an email if you'd like, twodadsinachaz@gmail.com. And keep tuning in. We got special guests coming up.
Reclaim
the North.
the North. We'll see you next time.
Two dads and a Chaz, putting trophies on the wall. Two dads and a Chaz is talking Green Bay Packers football. Not exactly qualified, but answers the call. Two dads and a Chaz talking Green Bay Packers football.
We gonna break it all down, probably leave out some facts. We gonna make some statements that we'll likely regret. Most of gossip and rumors made straight off the top. So crank up the air conditioning, cause it's bound to get hot.
Two dads and a Chaz, you know we live it and we live it right. Two dads and a Chaz, we gonna break down football for you tonight. Besides them rings and putting trophies on the wall.
Trophies, y'all.
Two dads and a Chaz is talking Green Bay Packers football. Yeah, we're talking Green Bay Packers football.